Today I'm going to talk about INFJ visions and about how they can destroy themselves, and I'll explain what exactly I mean with that. Basically, as an INFJ, you use NI to predict the future and to have visions of the future. And this vision is the image that you have of the future, the prediction that you made. So this vision is something maybe about their life, something they want to achieve, or so I'm especially talking about those kind of visions, not about what's going to happen with society or with the world or something like that, but like when an INFJ is looking at their own life and has a vision or multiple visions for their own life, and this vision does not end up coming true. So basically the vision is destroyed. So I want to talk about that and why that happens and what you can do to avoid it. So first of all, I want to talk about the fact that if you're an INFJ, your NI should be pretty strong. But there's one thing that you should not forget, and that is that if you are going to just going to use NI and TI, or even NITI and FE, if you're just going to use those functions or just the introverted functions a lot, and if you're not going to use the extroverted functions a lot, then your NI is going to be less accurate because you don't have any new information to use. So for example, with NI, you kind of use SE information, so information that you take in through SE. You use that information to make predictions about the future, because you can't just make predictions about the future that are accurate if you don't have any information to base it on. You need to have seen, real data, real patterns. And if you don't take in any new patterns through your extroverted functions, then your NI visions are going to be less accurate. So to avoid this, you need to use your extroverted functions to allow new data to come in. And this is the important part, okay? If you want to make sure that your vision is accurate, you need to allow yourself to change it too. You should not see NI as something that's fixed or something. If you have a vision, you cannot, no matter how real it feels. I know that these visions can sometimes feel really real, but no matter how real it feels, it's not, okay? It's not real. It's just a prediction. And no matter how much data you have, you can never accurately predict, you can't know the future. So you need to look at NI as something that's not fixed and something that is basically pretty accurate, but not exactly right there. You know what I mean? You need to use it as some kind of guessing tool. You need to look at NI as a sort of compass that changes slightly every time you get some new important information. That doesn't mean that you should just throw away your visions, because you're an NI user, so they'll probably be pretty accurate, but they're not 100% accurate, of course. So every time you have a vision, treat it like a compass, like the compass whenever you're trying to go somewhere. It knows where like north and south are and stuff, but like whenever you walk a little bit, it will change slightly, because you moved, something changed, but it's still accurate. It still knows where north and south is, but as things change, as you move around, then those points are also going to change, and you have to look at NI the same way. Like if things change and I get new data, then I need to change my vision and allow that to happen. And that's the first thing I wanted to mention. So why our visions destroy ourselves, destroy themselves, is first of all because we might get too hung up on a vision that just wasn't accurate because we didn't allow it to change. And secondly, there is this thing that might be a huge struggle for INFJs with using SE and with making visions real. So there's one other thing that you still need to be really aware of, and that is your use of SE to work on the vision. Because one problem with INFJs is that if we really want to use our dominant function, we're going to try to almost live in the future, because that means that we can avoid using SE, and we also just don't like to be very active. We like to be more just exploring ideas in our minds, using NI and then analyzing them with TI. And maybe we like to use FE and be social or do something creative or something, but SE is a hard thing for us. We have to use SE in order to make our visions real. When you have a vision that's something that is really important to you, but it's also something that, even though it's really possible to achieve it, it needs a lot of work, because maybe your vision is like a really big dream or a big goal. Then you need to not fall into the trap of thinking that just because you have the vision, it is real, or it is going to happen, or it's going to happen with little work, because that's not true. And if you have the vision, it just means that it can happen, okay? You need to realize it means that it can happen, but you still need to put that work into it, and if you never do that, then it will never happen. That's just how it is. And that's how our visions destroy themselves, because we are so reluctant on using SE that in the end we'll have this vision, we'll be envisioning it, we'll be like, yeah, I can do that. Then all day we'll just be thinking about stuff instead of using our SE and just doing stuff, working on it, or using TE as our blind spot, just being efficient, and just using SE and just working hard on that vision every day and making it happen. And if you don't do that, then you'll be like a few years later and maybe you'll think like, well, how does this work? Like, I've had this vision for a while now, but it never happened. And maybe you did work on it, Maybe you're thinking, maybe my vision was wrong, because even though I'm making a little progress, it's not where I want it to be. And maybe it's not realistic. Maybe it was never possible. But you have to realize that probably the problem is not that your vision wasn't accurate. The problem was that you didn't dare to use SE a lot to work on it, and to just be active working on it in the moment, working on it in the outside world, instead of just thinking and just exploring, just being introverted, which is what you're comfortable with. So that's how visions can destroy themselves, if we don't dare to use our lowest function enough and try to be practical in the real world, because your vision has to become real in the real world. So ironically, if you really want to use your NI in a way that makes sense, you also have to develop your SE more. And also, don't be too perfectionistic, because I know that's been in my way a lot. Like, when I look, because INFJs tend to want to overthink things, you know? So, like, when I look at my art and I'm like, yeah, this one thing is not good enough. And then I look at that page and I'm like, I need to change this because it's not perfect, and this because it's not perfect. And then it takes another, I don't know, 4 weeks before the page is done, even though it was good enough. And no one would have probably noticed it. Don't overthink things and be like, oh, it has to match the vision perfectly. Because it doesn't, because your vision also keeps changing. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, because reality is not perfect, and you have to accept that. Like, your vision will probably be perfect in your head, because it's your imagination. And that's also something that we have to overcome, because we're in our head so much that, like, your real product is not going to be the same as the vision, because the real product is real. So by definition, it's not going to be perfect, because everything that's real is not perfect. And that means that if you're going to put in the work and use SE, using SE means also accepting imperfection, like making something maybe and then looking at it, or creating an opportunity in your life and looking at it and being like, this is not perfect, but this is close enough. Keep working on the goal. Keep working on it. You know, whatever you're working on, it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be real. It doesn't have to be perfect. So don't let that perfectionism hold you back. And it will be easy to understand that if you remember that thing of, like, your vision is not 100% accurate. It's just close. You know, it's going to be close. You can create, or you can become who you want to be, or what you want to be, or create what you wanted for your own life. But it will not be exactly that vision, because your vision is not real. So don't be disappointed when you're like, oh, well, this is not really how I expected it. Like, that's reality. And you can choose to make your vision real in a less perfect way than it was in your head, but then it is real. Or you can choose to let it destroy itself, and then it will never be real in any way. It will just be in your head. Yeah, so that's basically it. That's this whole thing about how to use our NI in a productive way. So if you saw this and you're an INFJ, or you know an INFJ, whatever, then I hope you found it useful. If you found it useful, then please like or subscribe. Or am I supposed to say like and subscribe? I just feel like saying that is like kind of ungrateful, as if I'm telling you that, like, if you just like or just subscribe, I'm disappointed in you. You know? I think people say that. I'll say it. Please like and subscribe. Goodbye. See you next time.